There are many people under the age of 21 who live independently of their parents, right? Why shouldn't those independent young men and women have the same right to bear arms to defend themselves in their home that adults have? Well, Your Honor, many of the young adults ages 18 to 21 are attending college, so giving them the right to possess a gun would kind of be the same as giving a high schooler the right to possession, because they're both on campuses. And also, Congress's findings that majority of unintentional shootings happen in young adults up to ages 24 proves that it would pose a violence to the public. Wouldn't the Safe Schools Act make a lot more sense if it created exceptions for legally permissible gun-related activities like hunting? Your Honor, if we allowed exceptions for legally permissible gun-related activities like hunting, it would pose a flaw in the consistency of the rulings that the lower courts might be making, because you would have to have a really strict definition of what hunting is, and even then, the definition might waver and have different meanings or interpretations. So it would cause an inconsistency in the precedent of the rulings. If Congress's goal was to reduce gun violence in school, wouldn't a statute that criminalizes possession of guns on school property be a better, more narrow way to achieve that goal? Your Honor, if we limited the effect that the act has to only apply to when someone is on school property, that wouldn't account for the fact that most unintentional shootings are caused by young adults up to the age of 24. What legal standard should be used to decide the Second Amendment issue in this case? Why should we use that standard? Your Honor, we should use intermediate scrutiny for this case because the Safe Schools Act passes intermediate scrutiny because the government has a very justifiable interest in reducing youth gun violence in the U.S., and criminalizing possession of guns by minors would help to reduce that interest. And they have a very strong relationship, youth gun violence and the criminalization of guns to youth. We shouldn't use strict scrutiny because Mr. Johnston's intended use of his firearm did not include the core Second Amendment protection of self-defense of his home. Should history play any part in our analysis of the Second Amendment issue in this case? If so, how? Yes, Your Honor, I believe that history should play part in our analysis of the Second Amendment issue in this case, because we've seen from Congress's rulings in past cases such as Heller that prohibition for certain people to have guns has been ruled constitutional. For example, in Heller, Congress recognized that the mentally ill or felons should be prohibited from having possession of firearms under the Second Amendment, and that was proved to be constitutional. If we decide to apply an intermediate scrutiny standard to this case, aren't there several factors that would suggest that the statute is too disconnected from its purpose because it's too overbroad? For example, the Safe Schools Act criminalizes possession of guns in the home and possession for hunting. It also criminalizes the possession of guns that were legally purchased long before the act ever existed. Your Honor, I don't believe that the statute would be too overbroad or disconnected from its purpose, because the Safe Schools Act prohibits minors or young adults ages 18 to 21 to buy a gun by themselves and to use a gun without parental supervision. However, they can still use that gun if they have a guardian nearby. So the act would not criminalize possession of a gun in a home as long as there's a guardian in the home and they bought the gun. And possession for hunting would also not be criminalized by the act because of that same standard that you have to be over 21 or with an adult that purchased with a gun that was purchased by an adult that is being defined as someone over the age of 21 by Congress. It also wouldn't bring up an ex post facto issue because any guns that are in a home that might be under possession of a minor can just be switched or given to a parent and put in a safe or somewhere where the minor can't get to it unless the parent is with him.